All right, so we are live on Facebook, and we'll chat a bit, and then once we see that we've got some guests joined in, we'll get going. So,
we'll share it as well.
No.
I'll share it on my personal.
Okay, great.
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing okay. It's a beautifully sunny 15-degree day out in Buffalo, New York, I think. So it looks nice from the windows, but outside it's just brutal, which is the unfortunate reality for a while now. Toronto's not much warmer, right?
No, we are. It was -8 degrees Celsius. The wind chill. It feels like -15 or something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Maybe that's why you do all this internet.
I shared the live too.
Okay. Great.
Okay. All right. And so we are showing up in the feed, I believe. I don't see it yet on mine, but I'm sure it should be.
Yep.
And if people are starting to join us, if you will just post a comment. Yep, there we go. So that we know that you're there, and it helps other people to know that we're going live. I'm going to be in a great interview today, and you'll definitely get some takeaways that you can use to help your Dojang right away. And I'll introduce our guests in a little bit, but we've got some interesting high-tech things to be talking about today. And it's interesting because all this high-tech future technology all comes out of the fact that we just really enjoy hitting people wearing a chest protector.
Yeah.
Right? That's right. So old school mindset, new school technology, right? That's the idea.
Well, it's funny. We were doing a brand exercise the other day about what are some of our values for 2020 Armor, and one of the ones that really stuck was traditional values using progressive technologies. Our masters, I know your master, Master Mertens. We came from, probably one of the original pioneers of Taekwondo from Korea. So, old school is ingrained in us pretty deep. And so that's something that's very important to us, and merging that with progressive technologies is in our DNA.
Absolutely. Well, I'm trying to remember was it Good to Great? I'm not sure if it was Good to Great, but the whole idea of preserve the core, stimulate progress. And they actually literally use the yin and yang or and yang type of symbol and say, okay, the enduring companies of the world, happen to maintain those two things in balance, right? So they preserve the core of the principles and the beliefs that they have, and that they always embrace progress and development.
I haven't read that book in a long time. It was a while since one of my mentors recommended I should reread it, but it sounds like something that book would say. And we can take a lot from like really old countries. Canada and US are not that old. But if we look at like UK and Japan and China, and they have to do that because they have so much history, thousands and thousands of years. Yeah. Cool.
Interesting. Very nice. All right. Well, we're a little bit after 2:00, so we'll start to get into our formal topics today. Oh, there we go. I'm starting to see my comments. We've got people from Tennessee. We got people from down in New York. We got people from up in Canada. We got people from Virginia. So people joining us from all over. By way of introduction and getting us started, I'm Master Michael Mertens. Like many of you, a Dojang owner, along with my partner and mentor, Grandmaster Chung, operating 5 fairly large and successful Taekwondo schools. We service about 1,800 students in the suburbs of Buffalo, New York. And I'm also the co-founder of Taekwondo Professionals, which provides online and offline resources to school owners to help them to improve the balanced success that they have with their school. Coming up very soon, one of Taekwondo Professionals' signature events is our Taekwondo Professionals National Convention. And at that convention, we've got some outstanding sponsors and speakers, including my 2 guests today from 2020 Armor. It's the elite former competitors and innovative owners of 2020 Armor, Master William Sexton and Master Ali Gafour. Sirs, nice to have you with me as always.
Sir, always a great time seeing your beautiful face.
Thank you for having us, sir.
All right. I know you didn't get to send me a Valentine's Day card, so you needed to get that in.
That's all right. That's right. It's in the mail.
Thank you. Now, sir, we've gotten to know each other quite a bit over the last few years, And even though we didn't grow up training together, we grew up side by side in terms of being in Taekwondo competition during the same era, a competition style that we both know and love. But for those who aren't familiar with us, maybe just a little bit on each of your background, and even more specifically, your more recent background with the development of your company named 2020 Armor.
Sure. I guess I'll go first because I am older, and as we all know in Korean culture,
there you go.
Person goes first.
Yes, sir.
My name is Master Ali Gafour. I started Taekwondo at the age of 13. From in a competition stream, had my first tournament when I was 3 months in, and then never looked back. And then competed at the world level, was national team member for Team Canada. My highest level competition was Pan Am Games in 2007. And then retired in 2008. Almost made it to the 2008 Olympic team. I was in the top 4, and then didn't make the cut to the last 2 people that could go, and decided to put my computer science degree to use and start businesses in the year 2000, I guess 2008, just when I retired. And I've been doing that, and then with William, started 2020 Armor, and we'll get into that in a little bit later, but merged all my passions of technology, martial arts, and business together for this huge opportunity that merges all my passions, and it's something that can really change the sport. And we'll get into those details a little bit later, but that's my quick background.
Okay, yes, sir. Now let's hear from your junior, sir.
He's not my junior. He is 10 years younger, yes.
Yeah, so my background is I've been in Taekwondo my whole life. My family owns a school in Oklahoma. My dad was my coach growing up, and my training partner was my brother. So very much ingrained in it from, I have no pre-Taekwondo memories. So I in 2010 made the U.S. U24 national team time, and that was my biggest accolade. But I was kind of this generation that actually got to fight through the old pen and paper days, all the way up through LeJust, and then Dato, and some KPP and all that, and seeing all the different generations of scoring. And so getting to kind of see the beginning, the older style kind of going to the newer style. That's where, a lot of this learning came in, that, and a lot of, noticing that a lot of people had a lot of frustrations with both the ways that they had to do things in their clubs and the way that they were competing. And so at that point I kind of realized, like, there needs to be some changes. And so that's kind of where all this started, actually, was, going from that traditional into the digital era, and all the kind of bumpy road that everybody's had to kind of experience in that transition. So, it's funny, we talk about traditional values and progressive technology, and that's one thing that I really love is how we kind of have taken something that's so manual and then made it something, so digital and interesting in that way. And so, just trying to make it reach that next level,
Okay. Awesome. Now, you mentioned a couple of the other, products or equipment that people may have been familiar with. And just so we have some kind of way of placing where 2020 Armor fits in, what distinguishes it from other electronic Hogu that people may have seen on the competition arena?
Yeah, that's a fair question. That's probably one of the most common questions we get. And, you have to remember, again, we come from this world, right? We are club owners, athletes, coaches, and we played with everything out there. We know what's out there. And one of the biggest frustrations we had was ease of use. As you know, most martial artists are not technical, and they don't need to be. That's not the requirements for their job. And so ease of use was number one. It's got to be so easy. Your 5-year-old should be able to set it up without any help. Maybe you show them once, and once you show one person, they show the other person. So it's 4 buttons, right? So that was the biggest thing, ease of use. You do not need any sort of external devices for this thing to work. Second was that the customer service experience. I came from the enterprise software world, and customer service was the only way you could differentiate yourself from other people. And it just had this other impact of making the customer happier, getting them to know how to use their product better. And so just taking care of customers and that customer support was extremely important. And And then there was just the broad application of the tools. So most people create vests or scoring systems to keep track of scoring. But we said, no, it really needs to do more than that. It needs to be able to, you should have fun with it in class. You should be able to track your reaction time, power, stamina, put on a bag, wear it, put it on the floor.
You should have a reason and the ability to be able to use it every day, not just every Saturday during tournaments.
Yeah, right. And then the last one was durability, quality. We didn't want this thing to break after a year or even 2 years, because that's something that was important to us, quality. So that's the biggest differentiation for us. And again, most people think of electronics for high performance. And we said, well, what about the other 99%? How many of your students are in the Olympic stream, right? Not many, because it's a small number. But the other 99% had nothing, and so we really want to address this market.
That's right. Absolutely. I think that was the point that I wanted to make sure established, and you just did it very, very well. I've been fortunate enough, along with Grandmaster Strong, to be running large schools for a very long period of time. We've got thousands of students, and the number of athletes that we put on the national team is one. A very notable one, and a very.
And then what about the Olympic team, right? Like it just gets those centers are so small, that. It doesn't make sense, because some provincials or some state nationals don't even use electronic systems, right? So it's like the percentage of people that applies to is, you wouldn't own a system like that,
right?
And that's what we know. That doesn't drive people into your school anyways. I mean, how many people do you have coming into your school saying, "I'm coming here to practice to make the Olympic team"? It's zero. It's virtually zero, right? So, but the idea of somebody coming into your school saying, "I want to come train to somehow further my performance or become a better person or gain confidence or be physically fit" is 100%. It's everybody, right? So,
and one of the other things we say is, now what you can say if you do have 20/20 armors, now you can play a video game in real life, right? There's a lot more people that I can guarantee you will relate to that than trying to go through the Olympic stream.
Yeah, absolutely true. Absolutely true. And yet at the same time, what's interesting to me about the 20/20 armor as a product is it really merges both. I mean, it's not a toy. It's not a very, playful, low level type of tool. So it can be used for some high performance training. I know that it can stand up to the rigors of, pretty strong heavyweight kicks. And at the same time, it is eye catching. It is appealing to a little tiger student and to the average person, at an event booth or something like that. We're going to get into that usage in a moment. But to me, one of the reasons why this was something that I wanted to bring to the Taekwondo community, is saying, hey, will you be involved with Taekwondo professionals, is because you're absolutely right. The majority of students we're teaching in the majority of our schools are recreational martial artists, and we're looking for ways to help them to enjoy the program more, to make the training have a little bit more variety. And because it is really a performance tool, something that can, put in front of them metrics and visuals that help them to understand how effective their techniques are. So this, particularly in the last few years, you've started working with this theme of art, right? The 20/20 armor will help you with the art of growing your dojang. And I guess I'll let the cat out of the bag on part of it. Art is an acronym that stands for attract, retain, and thrive. And I'm seeing that you're having more and more examples on your site and testimonials of schools that are doing just exactly that. Can you talk about some practical stories of those different aspects?
Yeah, absolutely. First thing I want to say is we hired a person. His name is Joseph. So if you're an existing customer and you get an email from Joseph, you probably want to respond to him, because he's going to help you through that art process. His whole job is, hey, look, all the hundreds and hundreds of customers we have, let's give them a call and let's ask them, have they done any of the art stuff? And if they haven't, let's walk them through it. Because once you're, the more successful you are, the more successful we will be. It's just that simple, right? And that's a philosophy that's very ingrained in us. And so an example of art. We just did a post yesterday for Master Emerson Wong here in Toronto, and he used to do events, booths, trade shows, and he said he'd normally never break more than 10 leads, and he did this last weekend where he put the vest on the 20/20 armor vest on a bob, and he played the game where they it shows their power. So you hit the vest, and it's like a carnival game. It shows you how hard you hit. And obviously, people they don't know anything about martial arts, so they don't have any technique or anything like that. And instead of spinning the wheel and getting a free class, they said, look, if you can hit this to this level, if you can get to the yellow section, then you'll earn a week of free class, right? And they'll try, and they won't get it right the first time, which is expected. And then they give them a little bit of instruction. They say, put your hip into it, twist, snap, whatever it may be. And then they do it, and then immediately they get the value of the instruction that the instructor taught. And then they get a feeling of quick development right away, and they see it. And now they've earned that free class or that free trial. And he got, I couldn't believe the number when he told me he got 50 leads out of that. And then we ran through the numbers, if you can convert 50% of those on a low conversion rate, and then how many of those go into a black belt program, et cetera, et cetera. We have an article on that. That's about $30,000 worth of value. And if you buy 10 vests, let's call that around $5,000. You've made your money back in just one event, one attractive event.
And even compared to what he was doing before, it's 5 times return on the same event from what they're doing before, right? So they're really feeling the difference. I mean, immediately. So for the trouble of going through one half-day event, that's very significant revenue. Right?
Yeah, and I think the other thing was it wasn't a way like he could have just put a bob there and asked people to kick as well. Would he have got the same results? I don't think so, because the key difference is that he was able to relate martial arts in a language that everyone understands, which is video games, right? They understand a power bar. They understand you hit something, the lights go up. You immediately made it relevant to them. People were recording themselves. The parents were recording other kids doing it. How many times in your on your booth have you had people recording people playing your stuff, right? His booth was the busiest out of everybody, and that also attracts people. When something's busy, it's like, why is everyone there? What am I missing out on? And that was the one example that just happened on the weekend for attracting.
Yeah, and a big part of that is that it doesn't take any convincing, right? So
exactly.
Especially sometimes we operate booths and we're like, hey, come hit this or come play with this or come do this, and you have to kind of coax them in or try and work with them and be like, please come to my booth, right? Whereas when you have something that is kind of inherently attractive, right? Like people understand that when something lights up and is kind of presented in an interactive way, that it's something for them to engage with, and so it's natural, right? There's no coaxing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
So in that way, I think people can readily understand how having just even one 2020 armor unit could make for a great station at an event booth or even an in-house special event, even a bring a friend day or something like that. When it comes to the retain or thrive, I'm assuming that you're starting to see, because I know there are schools, member schools of yours that have several units, and they are using them in sparring training, either on bobs or on students using them with one another. I know we're going to talk about in the app in a moment, but even pre-app, tell me how schools are using them, on a daily basis, as you talked about.
Yeah, sure. So on the retaining side, one of our most famous articles is with our head of marketing, Michael, holding a target very unenthusiastically, and one of the biggest frustrations that we see in classes is bad target holders. And so even if you just replace your target holding session with the vest on a bob, you dramatically increase a bunch of things. One is, again, you get that instant feedback right away. The same feeling they got at the trade show where they knew exactly how hard they hit. They know in class exactly what progress they're making, and they can compare right away. This is what they do. What kids do is, let's say they're playing the power game to see how hard they hit. They play the game, they hit, they go to the back of the line, and then they look how hard the kid in front of them hit and how hard the kid behind them is hitting. And they're comparing themselves against each other. And now they're self-correcting amongst each other. So they're competing against each other right away. Whereas before, they're just kick, run to the end of the line, and it says whoever kind of does that as fast as they can, right? They're not really measuring how effective they are unless their instructor is saying, oh, good job or not good job, right? But then how many instructors do you necessarily have in the class that can watch everybody all the time? And so And then the parents see this. They're sitting in the sidelines. They're like, oh, okay, I can see my kid trying harder because the vest is telling them he's doing a good job or not a good job, and they're comparing against each other. So the quality of the class immediately improves, and then the parents are seeing that the instruction is there, or they're getting better training. And so, that's one of the key reasons for dropping out, boredom, repetition, and you resolve a lot of that with just one simple game.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing that we've kind of felt, and I make my own school, use these as well, and so you're often run into students that they can't see, their martial arts has a long learning curve, and so they kind of can't see their progression a lot of times, and so we often have this frustration. We're like, man, I wish I had a video of you. I should have taken a video of you on your first day, and so I can play it back for you and show you like just how far you've come. Right? I wish I had something that I could prove it to you. And so when you're giving this advice to your students and you say, okay, turn your knee into it, turn your hip into it, and then they can immediately apply that and they can see an improvement, even if it's just a marginal improvement, that's evidence, right? That's proof to them that, hey, your instruction is valuable, right? I am doing better. It is, it becomes tangible for them. And so now they're not just lost in a void. They feel like they have a direction.
Right.
But it's also reinforcement that you as an instructor are valuable. You now have that proof. It's like, hey, if you actually listen to me, you'll actually do better, right? Which translates to, is your program valuable, and is it something that I should stick with, right? All those concepts are interlinked. So when somebody's making that decision, do I keep going, or do I stop, or do I quit? A lot of it, it's like they're looking for what that next step is going to be, and if they can't figure it out, they're probably going to quit. So just reinforcing that has been just huge for us.
Yep. I mean, all great points. And, I think it emphasizes that there's a difference between playing games in your school, which, maybe none of us would support if we're traditional martial arts, say, hey, we get good results from good, hard effort. But we do believe in gamification, right? There's a difference between games and game. If we're playing duck, duck, goose or dodgeball in our school to keep the students enthused or enjoying themselves, we say, what's that have to do with Taekwondo? That's not really martial art training. But we're talking about the gamification of the same techniques and saying, oh, that roundhouse kick was whatever on the power meter. This one was better. This one was better. Now we've got the student chasing the right thing, not chasing when do we get to play something or do something that has nothing to do with martial art training. So I see how you're tapping into that.
Yeah, and that's a very important distinction, because a lot of people, traditionalists might say, okay, well, they're just playing games in class, and we want to teach them core martial arts. And we have to remind people that, remember our backgrounds, right? Our instructors, I just got past the beating with the bamboo phase, right? So I didn't that by maybe like a couple months. But we come from traditional martial arts, and we know the value of that, and we're high performance athletes. And so what we've built is something that actually at a fundamental level makes you a better martial artist. It just does it in a way that communicates more effectively, actually, not just to this generation. Even in my generation, if I had this, I 100% believe would be a better athlete, because I would know every single day at a very clear level what I need to improve. And that's important. Again, all levels, from your 5-year-old up to your Olympic athlete.
Yeah. As well as just making it easier to put in the time that's necessary to achieve excellence or that elite caliber, right? Like they say it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert.
Right.
If that 10,000 hours is extremely dull and painful, you're not very likely to complete it. But this kind of started, and some people remember the phrase, disguising repetition, where we're not just doing punches and horse stance and in front stances moving up the floor, but you're doing these techniques in different ways and in different, I would say that this is disguising work, right? So now you're taking the idea that that has to be painful at all, and turning it into something that is desirable. And that's a really, really powerful thing, especially when, you're talking about the difference between generations. That's something that, is kind of commonly harped on about, current and upcoming generations is, there's a different attitude towards that, right? So you have to realize that, and you have to take it in stride. And we want the next generation of athletes to have that ability, and have something that still gets them to that same level and that same passion in martial arts.
Absolutely, absolutely. So now we commented about attract and retain, and I mean, I think Thrive is built into that as well, or is there some other? Is there anything else that you wanted to mention on the Thrive aspect?
Yeah, Thrive is completely separate, sir. Thrive is a whole new revenue stream. I'll just give you one quick example of that. Is the ability to do well. Let's say you've never done in-house events. You can now do in-house events with objective scoring. And probably a quarter of the less staff because you're seeing the one-set referee, and then the experience is better. But let's assume maybe you already do in-house events. So let's say that wouldn't be a new revenue stream for you. Then within your in-house events, you can set up what we call these gaming stations, where you charge $5, $10 for an all-day use. You set up the best on the bob on the stations, just like an arcade, and you pay for an all-day access for that. So all of a sudden, now you just by placing the bobs placing the vest on a bob, you've just created an arcade, and what $300, $400, $500 easily on that day, which would pay off a vest by just literally having someone stand in front of a bob. You don't even have to have anyone stand in front of it because it's so easy to use. And there's other examples of creating new revenue streams, like dedicated classes as well. That's what some of our customers are doing 2020 Thursdays or 2020 Tuesdays, where you can only be part of that class if you pay an extra fee. And those are just some of the quick examples of creating new revenue streams where you couldn't have done that before without our technology.
Got it. So, I mean, again, it's really a well thought out process, and I've watched you develop that over the years. In that, one, again, the product itself is very innovative. It's very well developed. It's very easy to use. And then the process, so you got product and process, and then the process for helping schools to get a positive return on this. You're saying we've actually got 3 different doorways that they can make use of, right? They can attract new members by using it at events, either in-house or out in the community. They're going to retain more students by building it into their own teaching method to whatever degree they want, right? They can do it in one class a week. They can do it as part of their sparring program. They can do it as another alternative to kicking shields and kicking small targets. And they can make it as part of a pay-for event or pay-for program. So there's a lot of ways to get a great return on it.
Right.
Now, you both have mentioned, kids or people these days, and one thing that is ever present in everybody's life these days is their phone, and by extension, their own little video camera. Let's talk about one of the biggest things that's revolutionized 2020 Armor for the year 2020, I'm sure, and that was the launch of your recent app that's a companion to the chest protectors.
Yeah,
what is this all about?
This is a big deal. We call it in-game reality. We had to come up with a new term because nothing exists to describe this, where we put you inside a game, put your students inside a game. And I'm going to play a video of my phone of an example of an in-game reality match between 2 kids. And what you'll notice is, if you've ever played these video games, you know exactly what's going on. But we've made it so that you have an intro video, just like in the video game. There's a little intro video of each player. There's an outro video. When you win, it'll play that. And it now puts, and in this case, we're just talking about sparring, but there's other games you can play for reaction time, non-sparring games. But this one puts the language of martial arts in a language that the children understand. But what's the important part here is that you're recording this, and they have a documented history of it that they can now share on social media. And one step beyond that, what we took was we put your club logo on the website on the bottom right, so it becomes a referral generator for you. So instead of begging for referrals so that Johnny can get 1 month free, and he doesn't care because his mom's paying for his lessons anyways, Johnny will for sure show this video to all his friends in the school because it's him playing Street Fighter in real life. So here's an example of you can see it on my screen here. Tony sent me a message. You can ignore his message there. But you could see, kind of queued up a little bit. You can see the process of, all you do is you tap your phone against the vest, and once the phone is tapped against the vest, it's a very simple process. They double tap to play, and then here they go. So there's a little intro video you saw. And overlaid on top of the match is the real fight with everything that's going on. So if they do a combo, if they do a critical hit, which is like a large hit, if they do a counter, it shows. So, and then, it shows up who the winner is. Now, what was important there was, again, think of it from a coach's perspective. They know you reward doubles. What do you remember your coach always yelling, combinations, right? Follow up, counter, hit harder. We show you when you do that, right? Right on the match. And we show you what the score is. And we do it again in a format that's very fun and easy to understand. And so that now can be your referral lead generating piece. So you can ask your instructors, hey, in sparring class today, just record a couple matches, right? Or all the matches. It's very quick to do. And then just ask the students to share that on social media. They will much rather share that than ask them to, hey, tell your friends to come in and, that's a much bigger ask for them.
Give them a VIP pass or a coupon or a whatever.
Right. So you're changing the way the referrals are done in a format that's more relevant today. This is how your kids will communicate to each other. And you're showing them the quality of what you actually do in your class, right? And this is another important thing, because with the VIP card, you're not really showing them anything, right? With this, you can show, you got those new, nice, clean mats, right? The nice viewing area, how the instructor talks, all these subtle things that are going on, right, in the match that come out in the video. And that's, again, a huge lead generator, because we know referrals are the number one way for generating leads, but you can now do this organically and electronically on social media. So we feel that, again, it's this best of both worlds, where you're getting the fun experience of the technology, but it has this huge, massive business impact.
Yeah,
fantastic.
The key part there, I think, also is that how natural, you said use the word natural and organic, and that's really the crux of it, because a lot of students, we've definitely run into this in my schools. You're asking your students to bring their friends or bring their referral, and you really got to walk that fine line without it feeling like you're asking for your students to go become salesmen on your behalf, right? And that message gets old really fast, and nobody wants to be in an environment like that. But you have to keep asking. You have to constantly ask, because we know that that's your best source of referrals, and your business is not going to survive without new students. So you have to keep pressing. So the idea is that first off, make it something easy to do that they will want to do. Is not socially awkward. It's actually very socially unique. There's no other sport that can do that, right? So the kids on your high school basketball team, they can't do that. The baseball, soccer, none of them can do that, and it's very, very it's unique in that regard. But it's something that makes you special. Now it's not, you're the weird kid doing dances in pajamas. Here come join me, right? It's I'm the kid in the video game doing all these crazy things, right? And then it's everyone's asking you, hey, what do I have to do to be like that? Rather than you saying, hey, can I get you to come with me?
And let me show you what we can do.
Yeah, it's a very, very different tone of conversation. It's very natural, right? So lowering that barrier to entry is massive.
Excellent. And, I know that we're going fast through a lot of these different tips, but what I've seen is that the 2020 Armor website continues to become more and more robust in terms of demonstrating what the units can do, demonstrating what the app can do, and having a lot of case studies of successful owners from literally around the world who are implementing it. We've got some comments posted in the chat already that will allow you to access testimonials, that allows you to access videos about the app. And I'm aware that even today, as a little thank you to all the viewers, that you gentlemen were kind enough to put up a link so people can get $75 off of a unit. And if you're watching this not live, if you're watching it a couple of days later, that's going to be good through this coming Monday, the second to last Monday of the month, I believe it is. And it has so many different applications. And I was just talking to my staff last night that we don't want to be the people that have said, kids these days are blah, blah, blah. And that's the end of the story. What we want to do as instructors is we say, kids are a little different these days. That's why we, and that's why we have a different method when we connect with them. That's why we use different methods of teaching them. That's why we have implemented technology in order to continue to excite them. And this is really nothing different than innovation that should be true in anything, right? The iPhone is on the 11th model, right? They can't stay with the same one. To be the leading company needs to be continually innovating. And, I think people might be aware, or I know that I heard at one point that the #1 search engine, of course, in the world was Google, but the #2 search engine in the world in terms of search topics was YouTube. And so students are looking at videos constantly, sharing videos constantly, and it's one of the fastest ways that people are taking in information. So if you want to hand them a 2-page flyer about your school with a lot of text on it, they're going to skim it, but they're probably going to watch a 2-minute video from start to finish. So implementing video into your marketing makes absolute sense, and getting your students excited to share their videos of their own experience. And now people who saw it, again, it was a very quick clip, but all of that avatars and Go and Winner and all that on-screen stuff, that wasn't something that the individual user had to create, right? That's all built into the app. We basically, they film it and it turns the match into a video. It turns the match into the appearance of a video game for them.
Right.
Exactly.
So I'm going to show you William and mine intros. Okay. It's just the intro, but it's hilarious because William's very creative. I think you might have seen this, sir. So this again, all you do is record your intro, and then it stitches it into the app for you.
Okay.
You see there, William from the stairs, and then we quickly run through a match here. But then it also has like an outro winning.
Yes. Right.
So you can see that you can get very creative, right?
That's right. And and if you're not familiar with this, you either grew up a little older ago, or you don't have kids, because all kids video games have those kind of intros, have those kind of outros. And again, we're not talking about that they spend the entire time playing around and do that. They do that, and then they go out and do their best sparring, right?
Exactly. And what the intro and the outro does, it adds an element of fun. They can be creative. But then again, at the end of it, when it's all stitched together automatically, and then they share that to their friends, that becomes something that they can connect with. Like, oh, that's my friend. I know his personality, right? I know who he is. He jumps off stairs and it's funny. Oh, now he's doing his sparring thing. That I don't know. That's foreign to me. But I can, okay, so that's what he does. But then, so you connect it to them right away, and then you show them what they do, and then you make it fun again, right? And that's important because that's what you need to show, especially people from the outside who know nothing about martial arts, that this thing can be fun, and it is fun, and you're learning. And it's hard work. Absolutely, it's hard work, but it is also fun.
Right. There's one critical piece of this that we haven't really touched on yet, and that's the idea that, because, you're using videos of yourself, right? Or you're using videos of peers around your same age, if you're filming or if you're involved in this, right? So when, the people that you're typically going to get as referrals from your students are going to be from a very similar demographic as your students, right? My 9-year-old students are likely to bring me 9-year-olds. If they're girls, they're likely to bring me girls, right? So the key crux of this is, like, if I'm in the video, right, and I'm going to show this to somebody my age from my demographic, that's not targeted marketing, that's customized marketing, right? My 40-year-old potential recruits out there are going to see videos featuring, 40-year-old men, right? My 9-year-old and 10-year-old, they're going to be seeing things that apply to them. So you're not trying to come up with an ad that is going to be a scatter shot, and you're saying, oh, I've got to come up with an ad with a kid because 60% of my leads are going to be kids, right? You're really getting to the heart of what the end result or the end user wants to see, and it's going to be most convincing for them. So it's really, like I say, it's not targeted ads, it's customized ads.
Got it. Great point. And now let's jump back and forth, which again we keep doing because it just meshes so well, that the app has that game mode or that video game capture of a sparring match, which again is really just an overlay. Again, your students are sparring, they're doing the best that they can, they're following all the rules that they would follow in regular Olympic style training sparring, but the vest is recording information, and then the overlay of the video makes that more visual and makes it more entertaining for people to watch. There's also additional training metrics that people can use regardless of whether they're doing sparring that they capture during the app.
Yeah, that's right. So one of the things that we still don't measure today, and we never measured in your generation, or my generation, and your generation, sir, was basic metrics like reaction time, power, stamina, timing. what actually are those? And there have been many studies that show that those factors have high correlation to successful winning matches. But even if you're not doing high-level competition, just day-to-day progress. So, for example, if you're a white belt, how do you compare to other white belts in terms of reaction time, power, stamina, and timing within your class? So how am I doing against my peers on those factors? And am I improving week to week on that? Yes, we have belt testing, but belt testing, you're essentially looking for form, really, right? The best way we do power is through board breaking, right? Which is great. It's essentially like an old school way of measuring power, right? But what if you can measure that every day? And what about reaction time? That's also very important in martial arts. Same thing with stamina. How do you measure stamina? Okay, do 100 kicks on the paddles. Okay, but most of those 100 kicks were just like little toe flicks, right? Did he really kick? You know what I mean? Like, does he really have that stamina? So we can now have very objective ways of measuring that, and it applies to all levels. Again, your 6-year-old up to your Olympic heavyweight black belt, they can play this, and you don't have to spar. You can just put it again on a bob or a punching bag and do this. And some clubs are using this as they're experimenting with using this as a requirement to go to the next belt level. So you need to have your stamina, power, and reaction time this, or else you're not ready to go to the next level. So because it is really that fundamental, right? It is. If you don't have these core level skills, then you're not really ready to get there. And then, but if you do these exercises, you can get to the next level. So it is more than just for sparring. It is for day-to-day practice as well.
Fantastic, yeah, and Taekwondo has been my love and my passion, and without question, the art that I've spent and the exercise that I've spent the most time doing. But I have dabbled in triathlon a little bit. I've even gone up to I've done two half Ironman triathlons, and I can say that many other sports fields are very metric driven, are very tech driven.
Right.
I mean, obviously, when it came to running, how many, what your time was for running a mile, but almost all triathletes are running around with a watch, so they know exactly, how long it took them to go, how many miles, how much they did on the way out, how much they did on the way back. They've got watches now that are tracking the same thing while they're doing swimming. I was offered the opportunity to have an underwater camera evaluation of my swimming stroke, and I think that was going to be like $100 for a single session. Where we're saying this is something you purchase and now you can use it year round. And then with cycling, those who follow cycling at all might know that the development of power meters and the ability to track watts, the amount of energy that an athlete generated, basically revolutionized cycling. Because now the athletes were not just, all right, just work as hard as you can, as long as you can, as fast as you can, but they were actually evaluating how efficient they were being, what amount of revolutions, their cadence, how that affected it. So again, I'm without question still a white belt when it comes to all those other sports compared to Taekwondo, but I can say the prominence of metrics and training statistics is big in virtually all other forms of athletics, and so it makes perfect sense to try and implement them into our art as well.
That's right.
Now, for people who are listening to all of this, you mentioned it already, and I see that Joseph posted in the group as well, so people can connect with them. If people, what I know that you both feel very passionate about is we don't want people to order a vest or order a pair of vests, look at them, play around with them, and then leave them on the shelf, right? You want to make sure that you can say, hey, are you using it as fully as you can? Are you using it for recruiting? Are you using it to motivate your students? And hey, are you even using it to maybe offer some additional services to your students? And you have now put someone in charge of making that happen. Tell us about that just one more time, please.
Yes, sir. So Joseph here is who's on the thread. He is your personal guide. So once you buy the vest, we're going to put you on an email stream for as an existing customer, and we'll walk you through. On day one, you should do this. Week 1, you should do this. Week 2, you should do this. So we'll send you the emails on what to do. But maybe you're not an email kind of guy or girl, or you're just kind of busy that week. Joseph will also reach out to you and say, hey, sir, hey, ma'am, just want to know, have you tried this? Did you know you could do this? Do you have any issues? Is there something that's not working? And so it's just taking a proactive approach to everything. because we're all business people. The more better experience that your students have by you teaching your martial art program, or in our case, using our technology, the more likely they'll refer more people or stay longer, or take your black belt program. That's the same thing with us. The more successful you are, the more chances are that you would purchase more technology, refer it to other people. And so it's just a win-win, right? It just makes sense from a business perspective. And that's why we chose to go down that path.
Okay, makes sense. And in that way, which you've already mentioned, the idea that purchasing these units should be an investment, not an expense, right? There is an outlay of money. People have to spend money to get them in their possession, but it should be an investment, no different than the investment that you make in marketing or that you make in mats for your school. They're things that you purchase that actually are going to make you money, because the school is going to be more attractive, going to be more eye-catching, going to be more engaging to students from outside, and get them there and keep them there longer. I'll connect that in a way, if I may, as we start to wind up, with the fact that events like Taekwondo Professionals, our convention, are meant to be the same thing, right? It's not meant to be an expense. Oh, I don't know if I can afford to go to a convention or afford to go to a business training seminar. It's meant to be an investment that has a strong return on it. I know as sponsors, as vendors, you visit quite a few events over the course of the year. In general, why do you think that's important for you as vendors to connect with your target market? But when you see people at those events, what are they saying about the importance of attending events to grow their business?
Another way I'll try to frame that is, someone said this to me. I was watching a video the other day. They said, I'll relate to books and then bring it back to events as well. If you think about a book, it's someone's whose passion, they spend about maybe 20 years on something, and they distilled it down to 200 pages, right, for you to learn from. An event is similar. It's people. I don't know how many decades you've been in martial arts, sir. I've been almost 3. And then let's say there's 200, 300 people with at least a decade between them, right? That's literally centuries of experience of people in one location. And then you've got some problems, I'm sure, that you haven't, that you're having, and you can literally speak that problem to that group, which is way better than a book, right? Because the book, no one's talking back to you. And so if you just kind of frame it in that way, then you really realize, how could you not go, right? What is that couple $100, maybe $1,000, let's say flight, and depends where you are, if you can fly or not, hotel, and then the ticket cost. I mean, if you're not making that money back, there's something else wrong completely with maybe your business. But I don't know how you could not make your money back by going to some of these events and learning from your peers that have decades of experience from different perspectives. So that's my personal take on these sort of events. And again, these amount of dollars aren't, bank-breaking amounts, right? 1,000 or 2,000 isn't something that should hopefully put you in the hole. But but you should 100% be able to make that money back within a month.
Agreed, 100% agreed. And rather than I say it as the host of the event, Master Sexton, you came before you ever came as a vendor. I believe you came as an attendee. Your father and your mom came, as attendees, just as school owners, saying, okay, let's try to learn ideas that are going to help us to grow their dojang. You go to a lot of events, sir. How does Taekwondo Professionals Convention stack up against the other stuff that's out there? And feel free to tell the truth.
Well, I got to watch my words here, because we sponsor a lot of stuff and go to a lot of.
Yes, sir.
No, you hit it on the head. The first time that we came to Taekwondo Professionals, I just came as a school, and that's actually, I brought that back to my own team and said, hey, Ali, this is something that we've got to get on board with. These are the right people to be talking with. This is the right platform. They're attracting the right people that are really trying to do more with their businesses. And to grow and whether it's to proliferate the sport or whether it's just to grow in their own businesses in their own local communities, this is the right place. These are the right people. This is the right community to be in. So, we came and sponsored last year and had a great time actually doing a physical workout session with everybody and getting to show it off in person. Compared to other events, I really think the thing that sets Taekwondo professionals apart is you spend a lot of time clearly curating the content and the speakers. So I think anybody can throw together an event and get 5 random guys to show up and talk about random subjects. But getting those professionals to come in and give that high quality content, like you make every minute valuable. And that's why I'm coming back for the 3rd year in a row now. So that's the biggest part of my experience is just every minute is valuable.
And then from my experience, also the focus. Just look at the title of the event, Taekwondo Professionals, right? And so versus other events, it could be more generic. And there is maybe some value in that if you maybe have a school with like different sport styles that you teach. Most Taekwondo schools tend to, 90% of them focus on Taekwondo, and so you really get that focused material. And Taekwondo is a unique sport. It is the largest, and the way we can market that is unique. And so everyone there is Taekwondo, which is also very unique.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, again, I'm honored to have been able to spend this time with you today, and I think we shared some valuable, thought-provoking ideas for anybody that's watching. Again, they're not going to be able to understand how to implement and do everything right away, but you've really, made the path pretty clear for them by putting a lot of material online and then having a representative that, again, will hold their hand and walk them through it. And if people still want to learn more or get a chance to see these 2 gentlemen live, you think you're seeing them live, but you're only seeing a representation of them. This is not the full real version of them. And in fact, Master Sexton, a lot of the time we only saw half of you. I can guarantee he is actually a full person. He is a full-size person that actually just doesn't fit on the screen. But you're coming along, which we're very excited to be, not only as sponsors, but as part of our presentations. You'll both be up on the page for an hour, again, sharing case studies, letting people see and touch and feel the armor firsthand so they can figure out how to apply it. Again, the whole goal behind the Taekwondo Professionals Convention is to give people practical information that they can use literally the day that they come back from the event. It's to give them motivation that I believe comes from being surrounded by, can you feel it from these gentlemen? People who are passionate about what we do and the impact that it can make. And it gives you networking opportunities to realize, hey, we're not in this alone. You can be a school in California and have colleagues in Florida, Colorado, and even places as far away as Canada that can give you encouragement and guidance to help you grow your school. So you're not doing it alone, but sometimes we fall a little asleep at the wheel and don't realize that the trends keep moving forward. Coming to this event can help people to catch up a lot. So if you want to learn more about 2020 Armor, you can visit 2020 Armor. I think it's the numbers, right? 2020armor.com, ARMOR.com, and a lot of case studies and information. Once again, we'll post in the comments a link to be able to get $75 off of each unit, which is a nice opportunity. And if you want to learn more about Taekwondo Professionals, please visit taekwondoprofessionals.com. You can learn about our coaching program. You can learn about the upcoming conference where these 2 outstanding gentlemen will be presenting and sponsoring. And we're going to have a good time. We're going to have some laughs and provide you with valuable information to grow your school. Gentlemen, any closing comments? It's great to have you here today.
Looking forward to seeing you in person, sir.
All right, sirs. Thank you so much for joining me live. And again, everybody, you got questions or comments, you can post them. We'll certainly see them even afterwards. But let's see everybody in Dallas, April 24th and 25th for the Taekwondo Professionals Convention. Thanks, everyone.
See you in a couple months. Bye, sir.
Bye.